My name is Daniel Grant. I'm 41 years old, and until a few months ago I believed I had finally built a life I could trust. A stable job in Denver, a quiet townhouse on the south side. A woman I thought I understood. Claire. She walked into my world 3 years ago with that soft voice and cautious smile, like someone who'd been hurt before but still carried hope in her pocket. I mistook that for sincerity, for honesty. I thought she was the one. And maybe that's the part that still stings, the fact that I believed it so completely, so blindly. Everything started collapsing on a Thursday evening. I remember the date perfectly, September 14th. The sun had already dropped behind the buildings, leaving the city washed in that late fall twilight. I got home early from work, something I never did. Claire didn't expect me, and maybe if she had, the rest of this story would never exist. I walked through the door, and the first thing I felt was the silence. Not the comforting kind, the heavy, unnatural kind, as if the house was holding its breath. Then I heard it, a low voice, a man's voice. Her voice followed, soft, almost trembling, the way she never spoke to me anymore. I didn't confront them, not at first. I stood behind the half-open door of the hallway and listened because instinct told me I needed to hear the truth before truth could hide itself. I don't remember every word, but I remember enough. He still suspects nothing. I'll keep him calm until we're ready. Just make sure he doesn't suddenly change routines. One mistake and this falls apart. My heartbeat felt like ice cracking. It wasn't just an affair. It wasn't just betrayal. They were planning something. Something involving me. When Claire finally left the room, giggling quietly as she fixed her hair, I stepped away from the door before she saw me. I didn't confront her. I didn't shout. I didn't collapse like a broken man in a soap opera. I simply watched her walk past me, oblivious that everything between us had already died. That night, lying next to her in the dark, listening to her slow, steady breathing, I understood something I never thought I'd feel. The fear wasn't about losing her. The fear was about what she intended to do to me. And in that moment, something inside me shifted quietly, coldly. I wasn't the victim anymore. I was preparing. I didn't sleep that night. Claire did, effortlessly, like someone who had no idea the ground had already split open beneath her feet. I lay beside her, staring at the ceiling, feeling every muscle in my body coil tighter with each passing hour. At 4:17 a.m., she rolled toward me and draped an arm across my chest, a gesture she hadn't made in months. I didn't move, didn't react, didn't let her feel the tension shaking through me. She thought I was asleep. She thought I was still hers to manipulate. But in the dark, I was already planning routes out of the house without being noticed, determining which files I needed from work, and memorizing every detail of the conversation I'd overheard, every word that hinted at something bigger than cheating. When morning came, Claire kissed my cheek before leaving for her shift at the clinic. That was new. She hadn't kissed me like that since last winter. If I hadn't known better, I might have mistaken it for affection. But now I understood. It was guilt management, control, a way to keep me lulled and blind. The moment she drove off, I followed. Not closely enough to be seen, just enough to track her. She didn't go to work. She didn't go anywhere near the clinic. I parked 2 blocks away from a modern steel and glass office building I'd never seen before, and watched her enter with the same casual confidence she used when walking into our home. She wasn't hiding here. That meant she believed I'd never check. I waited. 10 minutes, 20, 30. Then another car pulled up, a dark gray BMW. A man stepped out, mid-40s, athletic, sharply dressed, confident, handsome in a polished, corporate way. I didn't know his name yet, but I knew one thing the moment he touched Claire's waist. He was the voice I'd heard the night before. Seeing her laugh at something he whispered lit a fire in me I didn't expect. Not jealousy, not heartbreak, but clarity. This wasn't some casual affair. This was structured, organized, hidden behind routines she assumed I'd never question. And the way they entered the building together, side by side, like partners, told me everything I needed to know. She wasn't being seduced. She was actively part of whatever this was. I stayed in the car for 2 hours, watching people come and go, until something happened that changed the entire direction of my thinking. A black SUV parked at the loading area behind the building. Two men got out, one carrying a briefcase, the other a sealed white package the size of a shoebox. Both wore security IDs from a company name I couldn't read from the distance. But Claire's lover. He met them at the back door, and Claire stood behind him, looking nervous, far more nervous than she'd looked when she walked in, laughing. The men exchanged something with him. Papers, signatures, the briefcase, and Claire kept scanning the parking lot, as if expecting someone to appear. Someone like me. Only then did I understand. This wasn't romance. This wasn't lust. This was a transaction. Something illegal, or dangerous, or both. And Claire was involved deeply enough that my existence was a liability. When they finally disappeared inside, I stepped out of the car, gripping the edges of the door to steady myself. My heartbeat wasn't panic anymore, it was calculation. I didn't know yet what they were planning, but I knew now. Without any doubt, I wasn't the one in danger because she cheated. I was in danger because I knew her. Because she needed me, quiet, predictable, and aware. And if she was planning something that required me not to interfere, then I would interfere in ways she never saw coming. For the next 48 hours, I lived two lives. In one of them, I was the same Daniel Claire believed she had successfully manipulated for years, quiet, distracted, predictable. I made breakfast like always. I asked normal questions. I even let her kiss my cheek again. That rehearsed gesture she used to check my temperature without a thermometer. But the second life, the real one, unfolded silently behind her back. The first thing I did was go back to the office building she entered. I didn't follow her inside. I wasn't stupid. Instead, I parked across the street with a coffee I didn't drink and used binoculars I hadn't touched since a hiking trip from another life. People went in and out, all wearing the same badges. Corporate, clean, professional. But the black SUV from before, it came back, twice. Always at odd hours. Always with new men. Always with something to exchange. Drugs. Money laundering. Blackmail. I didn't know, not yet. But Claire's involvement wasn't insignificant. She wasn't just the girlfriend of some businessman having an affair. Her presence had weight, urgency, fear. She wasn't being used. She was part of the machine. By the third day, I needed answers, not guesses. So I started small, breaking into our shared life, not their secret one. Claire kept her laptop locked, but not well enough. Her password was the same as our old anniversary date, something sentimental enough to hide in plain sight. When the screen opened, I felt something twist in my chest. There were hidden folders. Not 1, 5. All named with short, cryptic words. Keys, codes, ledger, operations. P. Ledger was the first one I opened. What I saw wasn't an affair. It was a blueprint. Lines of transactions, payments, offshore accounts, schedules, routes, names. And right there, near the bottom, a list labeled liabilities. My name was on it. Daniel Grant, age 41, asset exposure risk, medium high. Proposed solution, stabilization or removal. My heart didn't beat for several seconds. Removal, not metaphorical, not emotional. They were planning to eliminate me. Not because Claire hated me, not because she loved him, but because I existed in the wrong place. Because I knew her, because I lived with her, because if anything ever went wrong with their operation, I was the one person who could connect her to it. My entire marriage had become a risk factor. I closed the laptop, breathing slow, steady. Control. Shock would come later. Fear would come later. Right now, I needed a plan. I copied everything I could onto a flash drive and tucked it beneath the floor panel under my desk, a spot she didn't know existed. And as I sat there, staring at the blank laptop screen, something clicked inside me. Claire didn't just betray me. She chose a life where my death was a logistical necessity. So later that night, When she came home and smiled like a woman who had everything under control, I smiled back. I asked about her day. I let her touch my arm, let her pretend we were still a couple. But behind the calm mask she believed, I was already preparing her downfall, a slow one, a quiet one, a precise one, the kind that would make her regret ever writing my name on that list. I left the house without looking back, not because I was running but because I didn't want to see the place where I had once been a husband, a partner, a man who believed in promises. That version of me was already dead, killed quietly the moment Claire put my name in that ledger. Now I was something else. Not vengeful, not broken, not afraid. Focused. I met the man who'd contacted me. His name was Onan, an old industrial park outside the city, a place where no one asked questions, and surveillance cameras hadn't worked in years. He looked older than I remembered, but his eyes were exactly the same, cold, precise, always calculating. He stepped out of his truck, hands in his pockets. "You moved," he said. "You told me to," I replied. He smirked slightly. "Good. You're still the type who listens when it matters. What did you find?" I asked. His smile vanished. "I found out why she's with them." My stomach tightened, but I didn't speak. I needed the truth, not comfort. Owen continued. "They're not just laundering money. They're moving sensitive materials, documents, formulas, prototypes, high-level corporate espionage. More valuable than drugs, more dangerous than weapons." "And Claire?" I asked softly. "She's not a pawn," he said. "She's a facilitator, a handler, someone who ensures things move from point A to point B without attention." My chest tightened. "And the man she's sleeping with?" Owen shrugged. "Middle management, a recruiter, clean-looking, educated, trustworthy enough to lure people in. But she outranks him in their internal hierarchy." I blinked. "Outranks?" He nodded. "She's deeper than him. He answers to her. He's disposable. She isn't." That hit me harder than discovering the affair. Claire didn't fall into this world because she was manipulated. She helped build it. I exhaled slowly. "Why am I on their liability list?" Owen looked me straight in the eye. "Because you're the only thing tying her to a normal life. If something goes wrong, authorities look at spouses first. You'd be questioned. You'd talk. Even accidentally, you'd expose her. And they can't risk that." I nodded. "So they plan to get rid of me?" "Yes." I didn't flinch. I didn't panic. I just accepted the truth as if it were weather. Owen stepped closer. "Daniel, they moved the timeline. They want her to bring you somewhere tonight. A place where they clean up loose ends." My jaw tightened. "Where?" "An old riverside warehouse they use for container exchanges. She doesn't know, you know. They think your surprise will make it look like an accident." My fingers curled into fists. "So I'm supposed to die tonight?" He nodded. "Double quotes, and if I don't?" I asked. He smiled thinly. "Then someone else will." We stood in silence for a moment. "What do you want to do?" he asked finally. I didn't even hesitate. "I want them gone." "All of them?" "Well," he said. I figured that's where this was heading. He handed me a small device, a recorder with every conversation their members had over the last month, meetings, deals, plans, names, enough to bury them. "How did you get this?" I whispered. "You don't want to know," he said. "And I don't want to explain." I pocketed it. Then I pulled out Claire's flash drive, the one with her own files, and held it next to the recorder. Evidence and motive. Her words and theirs. Her plans and their actions. It was enough to destroy the entire chain. But it wasn't enough for me. "I need something else," I said. "What?" "Their downfall must start with her." Owen nodded slowly. "You want her to feel it?" "Yes." He lowered his voice. "Then let her take you to the warehouse. Let them think their plan is working. I'll have people in place to record everything. When she gives the signal, when she hands you over, that's when she implicates herself beyond escape." "And after that?" I asked. "After that, the whole organization collapses. And Claire, she'll be done." I didn't smile. I didn't feel victory. I didn't even feel anger. Just cold clarity. That night, Claire came home acting nervous, but hiding it behind false warmth. She kissed me longer than usual. Her hands trembled slightly as she touched my shirt. Everything about her was an echo of the woman I once loved, all rehearsed, all hollow. "Do you want to take a drive with me?" she asked softly. I met her eyes. "Sure," I said. "Let me grab my jacket." My voice didn't shake. I followed her into the night, knowing exactly where she was taking me, knowing exactly what she planned to do, knowing that when she reached the warehouse and turned to hand me over, Owen's people would be watching, recording, waiting. She drove with forced calm, her fingers tapping the wheel, her breathing uneven. She thought she was taking me to my death, but the truth she'd learned soon enough was simple. I wasn't the one who wouldn't survive tonight. When we reached the warehouse, and she stepped out into the cold air, her hand trembling as she motioned for me to follow, I felt nothing, not love, not hate. Just the end. And endings don't need emotion, only precision. I walked behind her, the metal door screeching as she pulled it open, and that was the moment I knew her next breath, as a free woman, would be her last. The next phase wasn't about revenge, not yet. It was about survival. Because once you realize someone you sleep beside is capable of having you removed like a faulty part in a machine, every breath becomes strategy. Claire didn't know I had seen the ledger. She didn't know I'd duplicated her files. She didn't know that every smile she gave me only sharpened my resolve. But something in her shifted, subtly. She started watching me more closely, little glances over her shoulder when she thought I wasn't paying attention, checking my phone screen when I left it on the counter, asking too specific questions about where I'd been, who I met, how long I stayed. At first, I assumed paranoia was mine, but on Thursday night, she confirmed it wasn't. I'd stepped up to throw trash in the bins behind the house. When I came back inside, I heard soft clicking keyboard strokes. The office door was half open, light spilling into the hall. Claire sat at my desk, my laptop open, her face lit by the screen. She didn't even hide it. I stayed perfectly still, masked by the shadows, listening. Click, click, pause. She opened my email, scrolled, checked deleted messages, checked folders I rarely used. Then she tried to open my bank app. Her mouth tightened. Wrong password. She tried again. Closer this time? I didn't confront her. Not yet. I backed away silently, stepped out the back door, closed it loudly on purpose, and walked in again as though I had just returned. When I entered the office too quickly for her to hide anything, she spun in my chair. A smile plastered across her face so strained it almost cracked. "Hey," she chirped. "I was just looking for a pen." "A pen?" "On a locked laptop. On the password screen." I smiled, the kind of smile that told her nothing. "No worries," I said. "Find what you needed." She avoided my eyes. "Yeah, of course." But as she slipped past me, I noticed something on her wrist, a faint smudge of ink. A stamp, a logo. The same one I'd seen on the SUV's rear window days before. The same organization her secret files mapped out. She had been with them today. Not working, meeting. And she wore the evidence. That night, long after she fell asleep with her back turned toward me, I lay awake staring at the ceiling, replaying everything: her secrecy, her sudden interest in my accounts, her meetings, her lies. The ledger labeled me as a liability. But liabilities weren't watched. They were monitored before disposal. And Claire had started monitoring me. At 3:12 a.m., she rolled over slightly, her hand brushing my arm. It looked affectionate, almost loving. But I knew what it really was: instinctive possession. A subconscious reminder that she still controlled the narrative, that she still believed she had time. But she didn't know what I had already set in motion earlier that day before. I followed her movements. I had contacted someone I hadn't spoken to in years, someone who owed me a favor from a past life I never talked about, a man who didn't ask why, only said, "Name the target." I didn't name Claire. Not yet. Instead I said, "I need information. Deep information." He chuckled. About who? I answered. An organization that doesn't want to be found. There was a pause. A change in his breathing. Oh, he said quietly. Then, that reaction alone told me how far Claire had fallen, and how far I would have to go to bring her down. When dawn finally touched the room, Claire rose before me, kissed my cheek again like habit, and left for work. The second she closed the door, I exhaled and opened my phone. One new message from the man I'd contacted. 3 words, "You're not safe," and a 4th word, delayed a moment later, "Move." I sat up, pulse steady, not panicked, just aware. They were accelerating something. Plans were shifting, and if I didn't act now, I'd lose control of the board. So I got dressed, grabbed the flash drive, and stepped out of the house, knowing that the next moves I made wouldn't just save me, they would rewrite Claire's fate forever.